I can't even talk. I started it and I can't even talk already. All right, everybody, welcome to Electric Vehicle Weekly. I am Jim with OSR Garage. I do automotive content and some reviews, mostly based around electric vehicles, but I also cover ICE vehicles also. We've got Larry Lynch here. He is at Larry 91. And he does covers electric vehicles and other electric mobility. And we've got Sean with Fiskiratti here, and he covers Fisker news, including the Ocean, the Pear, and the Ronin.
Thanks for having us,
So
Jim.
Yeah, excited to be here.
yeah, this is gonna be fun. I think.
Hey, we got Rosanna. Thanks for joining, Rosanna.
Rosanna's
Call
here
as well.
already. She's always here.
She's great.
Okay. I just want to kind of update everybody. We've got any questions you guys want to ask is perfectly fine. We're going to go through and cover some EV news to start with. And if you guys got questions on that, as long as it kind of pertains to what we're talking about at the moment, we'll go ahead and answer it real quick. Hopefully you guys can kind of help keep an eye on the chat. And any super chats that come through, those will be answered first. So, okay. So the first thing I was going to talk about was the EV tax credit. So this has been a big thing, and I know Larry covered the first proposal quite a bit on his channel.
A little bit too much just for it to fail, you know. I feel a little silly about it.
I know. I think it was probably the better of the two, money wise, but I'll just run through everything real quick and then we'll talk about it. So I'm going to highlight the main points and the things that are kind of the issue. And starting out, we're going to be keeping the $7,500 tax credit. And I guess I should say this is all a proposed tax credit, it's not set in stone yet. But so we'll be keeping the $7,500 tax credit. We'll be removing the 200,000 vehicle limit, so that will bring GM and Tesla back into it. And Ford's getting pretty close to hitting theirs, and I think Toyota just hit theirs, or is really close on theirs. It'll be point of sale, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that might be the best. That might be the best thing out of the whole entire thing is it's point of sale. The whole thing is, not even one step forward, two steps back. It's two steps back.
Yeah, exactly. So now we're going to get into the problem with this whole thing. Vehicles must be built in North America, which is the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. And the tax credit actually pertains to the battery more than it pertains to anything else. So half of the credit pertains to 40% of the battery's critical minerals being from the U.S. or from countries we have a free trade agreement with. And the other half is 50% of the battery components have to be from the U.S. or countries of free trade agreement. Then the last couple things we've got is the modified gross income limit of $150,000 for an individual or $300,000 for joint filers. And the MSRP has to be at or under $80,000 for a truck, van, or SUV, and $55,000 for all other vehicles like sedans and hatchbacks. So I know at one point Larry was talking about a Lariat Lightning, which would kind of knock that out of that.
I think it comes in just under. I looked today.
Oh, yeah?
Even with delivery, it's $296 or something like that. So pretty calculated Ford ends.
Is that with no options?
Just the base extended range, yeah.
Oh, base extended, okay.
But that's pretty decked out. I mean, you might, because towing's included on that, so
yeah,
should be pretty decent if that's what you're going for.
Yeah. Okay, so the biggest thing that we were talking about was it's really putting a damper on a lot of this is the built in North America and the battery components. My question is there any vehicle right now that would qualify for this tax credit? Maybe the Bolt, maybe the GM ones, but I think everybody else outsources their batteries.
That's right. Yeah, I actually read an article earlier today that talked about it. I've actually read two different articles kind of contradicting one another. One said only 13 electrical vehicles will qualify that are sold today on the market in the United States. And then the other one actually said 30% of electrical vehicles would qualify. So two different sources. And that's kind of the problem is it's kind of wishy-washy right now. A lot of people don't know where the battery materials or minerals are going to be sourced. And Fisker's had that same problem. Henrik, on the earnings call, somebody asked him, one of the analysts asked him this past week on Wednesday about where the batteries were going to be made for PEAR. And the good news is Fisker hasn't actually partnered with the company yet to source their batteries for the Fisker PEAR. However, they have done so, obviously, with cattle for the Fisker Ocean. Right. But it still didn't sound like they knew where the actual minerals were sourced from. Were they a part of any one of the companies that are a part of that free trade agreement? It's still kind of, people don't know. But I think we talked about last week, Jim, or earlier this week around Fisker's ESG report. And in that ESG report, it's going to be like a full-blown report that says where everything's made, how it's made. And hopefully in that report that should come out later this month, it'll actually hopefully say, or at least I'm hoping it says, that where the actual minerals of everything is. Where's the metal come from? Where's the the minerals for the battery come from? Where does the rubber come from? They do need to know that stuff in their supply chain in order to actually say, hey, 50 kilos of the parts of the Fisker Ocean are recyclable. So they need to know where the stuff's from, and it'd be great if they actually disclose that.
Right. What do you think, Larry?
Honestly, the whole battery thing, I guess I glossed over that part. I didn't dive in as much as I should. Yeah, that's a bit of a blow. I know I was reading an article about how a lot of people are upset with the price caps more than anything, but I think those people, like myself, might have that might not even be an issue because they look past the battery thing, which my guess, I don't know. Do you guys have the list in front of you of what cars do qualify? I'm curious because I haven't done it.
No, I don't.
Yeah, I can get it. I had it earlier up. Okay. Happy to pull it up and let you know.
Okay.
So I'll dig that up.
So I guess my thing is what I hit on this in my video that I made, and I saw someone actually make a comment about what justifies an SUV.
Right.
Is the Fisker Ocean an SUV or is it a crossover? Is the Model Y an SUV or a crossover? Because we know the Model X is technically considered a SUV.
I know the Model Y technically, when we were talking about the last credit, it's under hatchback on the title, I'm pretty sure. So it fell into the SUV category, and I think even something as small as the Mustang Mach-E is technically still going to be an SUV too.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, but that's just what I remember from the last credit.
Yeah, I think I mentioned, when I looked at it before, and this is considering ICE vehicles, it was if it was built on a car chassis, then it was a crossover. If it was built on a truck chassis, then it was SUV. So now these all have their own chassis. All that stuff's all built specifically for EVs or for electric vehicles. So now it's does it go by weight? Does it go by size?
Well, EVs are heavy, so that'd be on our side.
Yeah. I'll try to think. Oh, couple other things. I went ahead and I'll talk about. They also added in a used vehicle tax credit, which I think is a great thing.
It's more than I thought too.
Huh?
It was like $4,000, right? That's pretty good.
Yeah, it is. It's so it's 30% of the value of the vehicle up to $4,000. It has to be at least 2 years old. It has to be purchased from a dealer. It can't be. It's $25,000 or less for the vehicle. So now you're looking at the Bolt
Yeah,
or a Nissan Leaf. You can only claim it one time. That car can only be claimed one time in its lifetime.
Okay.
Which is odd. Which I think that's a little weird, but the other thing is it has to be an individual. It can't be a business. So somebody can't like load up their fleet with used EVs. And one claim per person per 3 years. So you can do it once, but then you have to wait 3 years before you can claim that used tax credit again. And then the last thing is the income cap on that is $75,000 an individual and $150 on joint filing.
Okay.
So yeah.
You know, the more I'm hearing about this tax credit, it really seems like right now some of the negatives are definitely visible, but at the same time, like the world will be in like 5 to 10 years, this actually probably will fit a lot better. There'll be more EVs on sale under that, you know, what did you say, $25,000 mark? So
right,
it'll actually be useful then. But like right now, I think we're looking at it like this isn't really working.
Yeah, and that's mostly because we've had so many EVs just recently come out. So it's like you're looking at even 2 years, and the way our economy is right now, a 2-year-old one with 50,000 miles on it is probably going to go for 10,000 under MSRP at the most, or MSRP. I mean, you know, it's pretty crazy right now.
Yeah, it's going to definitely. I didn't kind of interpret it, but I believe how it's written. It's going to actually stunt the growth of EVs in the short term, because a lot of less people are going to not be able to afford them or not be able to get the one that they actually want. So somebody like one of the people that one of our readers, for example, at Fiskiratti, they might want a Fisker Ocean, and if they didn't get in today, or if they don't get in before the president signs the new legislation, or if and when the president signs the legislation, they may not qualify for a $7,500 tax credit. And what Fisker's trying to do is trying to kind of play within the loophole, if you will, where a vehicle, if they can provide a bill of sale that would show that the customer purchased the vehicle before the bill's actually put into on the president's desk and he signs it, and the vehicle's delivered in 2023, then that customer could potentially or possibly or maybe qualify for that $7,500 tax credit. Now, it's going to be obviously interpreted by the IRS here in the United States, whether or not this, if companies like Fisker will be able to kind of bob and weave within, the loophole or the existing legislation. But if companies can't play within that loophole for this short period of time here, it might be a week, it might be less than a week. If the House ends up passing it in the upcoming week, and it goes directly to the president's desk, there's not much time for companies like Fisker or Lucid or Rivian or whoever it may be to act fast and get their customers a bill of sale or some sort of a receipt that says, hey, you pre-ordered, you put down $250, $5,000, whatever the amount is, and you have a receipt of bill of sale, if you will, that says that you have a non-refundable pre-order. A lot of people are going to be out of luck in the near term. So it's going to hurt, I would believe, the agenda. So there's a lot more to it that we don't know, like why politicians are pushing this, because at the surface, and if you dig deeper, it doesn't really help the adoption of EVs. We would want to keep that $200,000 credit or $200,000 manufacturer. What is it called? The 200,000 manufacturer vehicles. Like, hey, they sell 200,000. Everyone, those first 200,000 people get the credit. After that, nobody gets the credit. They should have transitioned it better, kept that existing legislation and the new legislation, kind of phase it out, give companies enough time to build here in the United States, because there's going to be a lot of people, SOL here coming up if they can't, do what Fisker's trying to do. And what Fisker did is well ahead of the pack. I haven't heard of another company yet doing that. Like, they're Johnny on the spot today. They ended up implementing their plan to help their customers get a $7,500 tax credit with a big asterisk, possibly get the credit.
Possibly.
Yeah, possibly, but they're doing at least something, right?
Yeah.
I haven't heard. I think somebody in one of the forums mentioned Rivian might be doing something, but I haven't had time to look at that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, Larry, I didn't know if you had known what Fisker had planned to do, if you'd heard about it. But basically, what they did was they offered everyone that has a reservation that they could convert their reservation into an order by saying, I am going to purchase the Ultra, or I'm going to purchase the Sport, or I'm going to purchase the Extreme. And then their $250 reservation fee actually turns into a bill of sale, basically an agreement that you are buying that. It is a non-refundable $250. So if you decide later on that you can't do it or don't want to do it, then you walk away and you lose your $250. But I mean, it's $250. I mean, to some
It's
people
a
that's
good gamble.
anything, but to
Good
me
risk
that's
reward,
not
right?
$5,000.
So
Yes,
that's
good
enough
risk.
to lock in the old credit, is what I'm hearing.
Yes,
Correct.
yes.
It's like
That's
hedging your
correct.
bets a
Yeah.
little bit. Okay.
Yeah,
I mean,
before
that's
Fisker
pretty
would
cool.
give a 10%, they keep 10% if you canceled your reservation. So basically, once you say, hey, I want to pre-order this, Fisker's saying, well, you have to do it with a non-refundable pre-order. So if you followed Fisker Ocean 1 over the month of July, Fisker went out to almost all their reservation holders, not all of them, but a lot of them, majority of them, and said, hey, you give us $5,000, you can pre-order the Fisker Ocean 1. That $5,000 is a non-refundable deposit. So Fisker ended up taking that same type of game plan and did it now for all reservation holders here in the United States that were eligible to pre-order their Fisker Ocean Extreme, Fisker Ocean Ultra, and Ocean Sport. So they did it with all their trims now, and some people are choosing to do it. We've seen quite a few actually on the Fiskiratti forums, on Twitter, different forums that we've looked at, and it's actually awesome that they're giving customers the option to do it. Now, Henrik Fisker, who's the founder of Fisker, he actually posted on Instagram. That's kind of the main place he posts. He posted on LinkedIn, on Stop Twits, and so did the Fisker account. They kind of posted this all on social media. But the thing that Henrik Fisker actually did, he actually used the word possibly in his tweet, in the text that was a part of the post. He used, you might possibly be able to get this. Like, he didn't say you're gonna get it. It's not guaranteed by any means. It's all going to come down to like what the IRS and how the IRS interprets this rule, and we probably won't know for until 2023 probably. Yeah. But it is what it is. At least some reservation holders, at least that have the Fisker Ocean lined up to purchase, at least they'll have a shot at potentially getting that $7,500 EV tax credit.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I figured it was worth $250. So
you and me both. I actually pre-ordered a second Ocean today. So not only do we have the Fisker Ocean 1, I figured for $100, it gives me the optionality to potentially pre-order or take ownership of a Fisker Ocean Sport, maybe, or an Ultra for in 2023 that may qualify for the EV tax credit. So not sure, but I thought, hey, why not? Why not?
Okay.
So we got a good group of people chatting right now.
Yeah.
That's pretty fun. I see some familiar faces. We have Bill. Hi, Bill. Got Rosanna.
Yep.
Steve. Don't see too many questions, though. So if you guys have questions, by all means, post them. You can be as much a part of the show as we are.
Yeah. I think the only question I see right now is, will they require another $5,000 when the other trim levels are ordered and finalized? I don't believe that it'll be $5,000. The normal standard, I think, is usually about $1,000. But they may do, depending on your trim level, maybe a different higher price. So like the Extreme might be $2,500, $1,000 for the Ultra, and maybe $500 for the Sport or something like that. But we really don't know for sure.
Yeah, Fisker said specifically that they weren't sure what the pre-order amount would be, but as far as I know, based on the people who converted the reservation today from a reservation to a non-refundable pre-order, that's the amount. that's the amount that you've signed up for. Now Fisker could come back and say, hey, you need to put another $1,000 down once you configure your Ocean. When we say, hey, you got to lock in your paint color, your interior, your wheels, they might come back and ask for some additional money, but they might not. But they definitely said before all this, proposed tax legislation was out, they said that we haven't decided what that pre-order down payment would be for those other trims, but they were kind of put up against a rock and a hard place, trying to be kind of a first mover on this. And there'll probably be companies that follow them this week, I would imagine, if companies haven't already done so.
Yeah. So Bill just asked, if I can get back up to it, he asked, they mentioned about the production timeline. So they mentioned October for the Ultra, but also saw a lot of wiggle room about guessing on the demand for the Extreme. And from what I read, and when I got my email today, it said that the Extreme was expected to start delivery in July, and that the Ultra and the Sport were both going to start delivering around October, is what
That's right.
What I read. So
yeah, I read the same thing.
Okay. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and we're going to talk about the Toyota BZ4X. This has been pretty exciting. So with the Toyota BZ4X, they are recalling, and it looks like they only had to recall about 280 vehicles that were shipped to the U.S. and Canada, but the total is 2,700 BZ4Xs and 2,600 Solterras. And this is because of loosening wheel bolts that during sharp turns or hard braking could cause the wheel to fall off. So that's not a good
Doesn't sound very
thing.
good, does it?
No. And apparently they don't have a solution for it yet. So they are offering owners free loaner cars, and they'll get fuel reimbursement. They're also providing a $5,000 credit towards vehicle loans or outright payment if you own the vehicle. And then free fast charging through 2024. Extended warranties for the length of the time of the car is unusable. So they basically have told them not to drive these cars. If yours is out of the recall, you're not supposed to drive your car, and they are going to, so however long it has to sit, then you'll get an extended warranty for that amount of time. And then the last thing is they are offering to buy back the vehicles also. So
The bummer.
It's just crazy. I mean, they made a big deal about Toyota being like anti-EV for so long that they kind of kept pushing back, even though they had the Toyota what was the hybrid?
They've had so many hybrids. I mean, the Prius was like
the Prius,
right? Yeah. They have of pure electrified vehicles. They've got quite a big selection if you count the hybrids and plug-in hybrids they have.
Right.
Like, there's almost a plug-in hybrid of like 3 or 4 of the ICE compatible, or whatever I'm trying to say. There's like the RAV4 plug-in now. There's the Prius plug-in, Highlander now, I think, too.
Yeah.
So, and I just drove the Venzo, which is a hybrid from them. So I was really surprised going through the line. They've been doing electric for a while, just not full electric. And this is a bad first step into it.
And that's what it seemed like they were talking about. It was like Toyota was kind of pushing back, like, we don't want to go full electric. But then it was just like, okay, well, here's a car. Here, we made one. Because the styling is just not, I don't think anybody really cared too much for the styling of it. But then they do this, and it's like, okay, now the wheels are falling off. It's like, you really didn't care, did you? You just threw it out there and said, here, drive it.
So I ended up going to the San Diego County Fair this summer, and they ended up having the Z4X there. And The only way it seemed like people would go actually look at the Toyota booth was to give away tchotchkes, give away free Toyota bags and Toyota t-shirts. Surprisingly, Chevy had a few different vehicles that drew people's eyes, and that seemed to be the more popular of the two booths. And those were the only two companies at the San Diego County Fair that actually had automobiles or electric vehicles, things like that. So it didn't seem too popular unless you were getting a bag or a shirt or a water bottle or something free to get over there.
Yeah, it's not a good week for Toyota. I think a couple of days ago too, there was some emissions issues that happened too.
Did they have some too?
Yeah, I don't know the exact details, so I don't necessarily want to dive into it, but I just know not the best headline starting from August 1st to now.
Wow.
Yeah. But I will say, Toyota overall, they have a lot of potential.
Mm-hmm.
I'd love to see, like, I don't know if you remember the image floating around of like their everyone does their by 2023 or 2030 lineups, and there was a lot of cool possibilities of their concept lineups from Toyota themselves, like putting it out there. So it'll take a lot of work, but I'm excited, and I love the Tacoma, for instance, and I'd love to see even a plug-in version of that. Would be pretty awesome in my opinion.
The Toyota that I've always loved and admired, I've owned a Toyota Tacoma, a red one. I don't know why I got red, but I got a red one back out of high school. But the car that I've always loved, I've also owned a Toyota Avalon, I should say that. But I've loved the 4Runner, but it's always been so expensive. And for what you get, and like if you've ever sat in one and shut the door, they're so tinny, kind of like the Toyota Tacoma. I can never wrap my head around the price. It just doesn't seem like you get a lot of value for it, but it's super popular here in Southern California, and I still love it, even though it's very tinny. I still love it. I'd still take one, and I think that'll be an amazing electric vehicle if that. And maybe they already have it planned. I don't really follow Toyota too much, but I love that vehicle.
I'm with you.
Yeah. The 4Runners are pretty nice.
Huge cult following on those too.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Anybody else?
Oh, and that while we're talking about it, the FJ Cruiser. Imagine one of those with a little bit of juice in there. That'd be cool.
That's a nice one. Yeah, I think they had one of those at the county fair as well, with a kayak on the roof. I think it said you could win the kayak if you came over to the booth.
Wow. Okay. All right. Well, it doesn't seem like we have too many questions on those two.
No, but we got a good chat going. We got all sorts of people chatting. I love it. It's great. I've actually opened up a YouTube browser, and I'm chatting along here.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Okay, so the next thing, which came out, I think it was this week or maybe early last week, was the new Volkswagen ID4 small battery for the US. So they've been talking about it, and they finally released what the configuration is going to be. It's going to be a 62 kilowatt hour battery. 58 kilowatt hour will be usable. It's going to have a range of about 208 miles. And horsepower is going to be 201, so it's using the same electric drive motor that they use in the big battery one. And you, along with everything else, you get it's rear wheel drive, and then you get the 3 years of 30-minute free charging through Electrify America. And the price on it, they've got listed at $38,790. So.
Great second car.
Yeah, I think it would be good, especially if you don't have to travel, real long distances. So you just live right outside the city or something and just need to go back and forth.
Yeah,
it'd be great. I know we love our ID4. It's so comfortable and so great to be driving in. And the only thing that I see here is the 208 miles. With ours, the big battery is 250 miles. Now, when it gets wintertime, we don't have a heat pump. So you will lose about 40 to 50 miles
That
of
many? Oh,
range.
miles. Okay,
Yeah, miles of range off of that. So there are a lot of times we were running around with 190 miles during the winter, 180 to 190. So we would take a trip up to Chicago, which was about 185 to 190 miles, and we would have to stop partway up there and get more energy to get on up there on the interstate. Now, your regular normal highway driving doesn't really affect it too much. You just don't really notice it, but makes it a little tight in the winter. So I don't know, that 208 miles will probably be around 140 or 150 in the winter. So
yeah. But it's not that much smaller than the other one. You said it's 250 versus 200, like
yeah,
like
208. Yeah, it
okay.
has, ours is 250, but the 2023 ID4 big batteries, I think they're getting 275.
Okay.
I think they've changed a few things, the way, and got it a little more efficient, the way the battery and everything works together, than what ours is. Ours is supposed to get better when we get the update that we've been waiting for 2 years now. So, but yeah, it is a little bit. The size is not a huge difference. It goes from the big battery is 80 82 kilowatt hour
Okay.
battery, 77 usable. So that's that. I don't see anything. Anybody ask any questions about it either? So
So we do have one question. Did the US 2023 ID4 get a heat pump?
no, the ID4s in the US, as far as I know, they do not have heat pumps. Canada, if they get shipped to Canada, yes, it gets a heat pump, but not in the US. And I think European models all have heat pumps. So I think that was one of those cost saving things, with them being shipped over and stuff like that. I think probably there's some things that they reduced back for the U.S. because of trying to keep the price point down, because they also have like, what do they call it, import taxes and stuff like that. So they were trying to keep the price down. So they conveniently just left some things out. But
Do you have any 2023 ID4s in your neck of the woods on the lots yet, or are those not out yet? We haven't seen it over here at our local VW dealership.
no, I haven't seen any 2023s yet. I think people are getting 2022s are still coming out and being produced,
Got it.
coming across seas. But I think all of the 2023s for the U.S. will be built at the plant in Tennessee that they just started production at.
Very nice.
Okay, so we will move on to our next thing, and now this is where Larry's going to start getting fired up.
Oh no.
Yeah, here we go. All right, the Ford Lightning order banks. Last I saw, and you may have other information, but the last I saw that the order banks for 2023 were supposed to open August 10th. So
Yeah.
I don't know if you know any more than I do.
Yeah, I just put a small section of this in my video I just put out today, but the only thing official is actually like fleet ordering news, where it is the 10th, they said. So you can order starting the 10th for fleet ordering, which is
Okay.
cool and a good sign, right? Like, so
Right.
there's no official news sources saying that like consumers can order yet, but we've known this whole time, hey, end of summer, that's all that they've been saying, and it's end of summer, and they said August 10th, so therefore you do the math, and unless something terribly goes wrong, I'm guessing this week we at the very least get a concrete date. Fingers crossed on that. But
Right.
the one cool thing I did see in that same post was about the configurator supposedly going live also on the 10th.
Oh,
So, there could be cool new updates for the
yeah.
2023 year. That was also something I covered. I don't know if you've seen like the new colors and stuff that we're hopefully getting.
No, that's what I was going to ask about. Is I haven't seen anything about any new color option or any other options that might be added.
Again, nothing official. I'm just going off like rumors from the forums, but that's
Yeah.
all that we do here on YouTube, right?
Right.
But yeah, there's guys. There was like leaked shots of the actual vehicle, so it does exist, but of the Area 51 color and the cactus gray color, which is like the popular, cool, kind of like muted looking.
Yeah.
The Bronco has it, the Maverick has it. So I personally love the Area 51. That's probably what I would order. So I'm excited to see that one coming through. But as I was saying, it's just like, if we're at least getting new colors, hey, there could very well be like new pricing to look forward to. There's new configurations that we can get. Like, I don't know. I keep crossing my fingers on a moonroof for an XLT, because then that would save me some money, because otherwise I'm going to end up spending more for a Lariat because I just need the moonroof. But yeah, so all that to say, I don't think we're going to get a concrete date until later this week, but we can, be hopeful about the 10th at least.
Right. Yeah, one of the options that I am hoping for, because I am going to order a Pro. I'm going to order the Pro, and I want some like driver assistance options. Like,
sure.
I mean, I don't understand. This is one thing that I cannot understand, because other car companies do this. Why do you not have adaptive cruise on all trim levels? I don't understand.
I understand. It's to get you to pay more money.
Well, I know, but if you think about efficiency in an EV, adaptive cruise is probably your best way to stay efficient.
Sure.
I think. So that's why I think with EVs, I think it should be just standard. But yeah, I was hoping for some new colors, because I test drove a carbonized gray, which is what originally I was going to order, because I thought it would look really good with that blue highlight around the lightning on that gray. I thought it would look really good. But then I looked at, I'm getting the Pro, so I'm not going to have a light bar or anything like that. I'm not going to have the cool grill or anything like that. It's going to be just flat black. And I was like, okay, flat black and that gray, I just really wasn't sure it was going to look that great. So I think I'm leaning towards silver right now. But,
can't go wrong. Maybe that cactus gray might be in between.
Yeah.
I see that looking good with the black and the blue. So that might bridge the gap.
Yeah, that might be pretty cool. I'll have to take a look at that one.
So do you guys know how many colors they're going to expand for the Ford Mach-E? It looked like they had 10 right now. How many more are they going to be dropping?
So just 2 that are like semi-confirmed, like they saw it in the system and one's been photographed. But I heard Joe Herzog is another guy on the Ford Lightning YouTube channel. He told me that they're getting rid of Atlas Blue, which I didn't read about, but I saw that one might be going instead of the Area 51. So I'm like, oh no, like that's going to cause a stir for people. So they're adding, but they're also getting rid of a couple too, which is interesting.
I thought they were getting rid of the antimatter blue.
Maybe that's the one. I apologize. Yeah, I could be
one that looks bluish black. Yeah. That's the one I heard anyway.
That might be it, actually. I could easily be Atlas, antimatter. I mean, hey, it's almost 10 here, and I have a kid, so my brain's fuzzy. I
thought you were on the same time zone I was.
No, just an hour ahead, so nothing crazy.
Oh, okay. Well, so that's what we got there. Any questions? Anybody on the Lightning? Because Larry, you've kept up a lot more than what I have on the Lightning. A lot of times I go and get Larry's info, and then I do a video with his info.
Yeah, all I know for the Ford Mach-E, over at our Ford dealership, which is just maybe 5 miles away from where I live, there's only, for the last 2 years, it's only been trucks. F-150s, that's the only thing that's on the lot, aside from maybe one Mach-E that they use for test drives. But like everything is trucks, and there's some trade-in cars, but as far as like Fords go, F150, F250, 350, whatever it may be, like that's it. So like everything else is like super popular, or they can't make enough of it, or who knows what the reason is. But that dealership must be doing great.
Yeah.
Not keeping anything other than trucks on the lot.
Yeah. That's how the dealership that I've been getting some of my review vehicles from, they're a big truck seller, and they have 2022 F-150s on their lot for sale, several of them. So I think the last few videos I posted, I went there and I got they had several Broncos there. So I got a video on a 2-door carbonized gray Bronco. That was pretty sweet. And then they had a brand new 2022 Ford Raptor that just came off the truck.
That's
and then I found some secret little things that they had. They had a Shelby Baja Raptor there, and I'd never seen one of those before. And then they also had a GT500 there with a carbon fiber package on it and the track pack. And it's like, I'm like, my gosh, you guys got a lot of cars. And then he goes, oh, by the way, I'll take you around here and to the service center. He goes, somebody's getting their Ford GT being serviced. He goes, you can go check that out. And I was like, that thing was just awesome. It's like comes up to my waist, but
fun. That's crazy. No, not a dealer anywhere near me has at least anything cool in stock. It's crazy. It's just it looks like just a parking lot.
I will say the BMW dealership over by us has loads of BMWs, and they are all pretty amazing. Totally out of our budget, out of our price range, but they're super amazing. Yeah, they have all the latest and greatest there, but those are I don't know, 80, 90, 100 grand, 150 grand. There's some amazing ones, but they're way out of our budget.
Yeah. So Larry, have you gotten to drive a Lightning yet?
I did.
Okay.
And I'll tell you a quick story. I was so hooked on it, and I just can't wait any longer. You know, I actually caved and bought an ICE F-150. I haven't done a video or announced it on my channel or anything yet. Yeah, so I got
one of those too.
Yeah, okay. So I got a 17 Lariat, and my only fear now is like now I am gonna get so used to like I got the moonroof and all the features and everything, and I'm gonna have to get all the features on the Lightning, or it's gonna feel like I'm downgrading. So I just worked myself into a higher bracket because I talked myself, you know what, the Pro is just fine, because it really is. It's more than anyone needs. But now I'm gonna be so spoiled with my Lariat I have now that I'm gonna probably end up I'm gonna spend too much money.
I saw Larry on your channel. Do you still have your Tesla then?
I sold it at what I thought was going to be like the peak of what it's worth. Like I was going to be.
How long ago was that?
About 2 months ago, maybe a little more. But then it went up another 10K because Elon, So
what did you have before? It was a Tesla Model 3, or
I had a Y.
A Y, okay.
Yeah, and it was great. Like the only reason I sold it is I sincerely thought I was going to get to order the Lightning soon. Like I thought I'd make the cut, and I knew that the used vehicle market was high. So I'm like, you know what? Let me get out on top and just I'll buy a whatever while I wait. But then I never got an order, and now I'm just sitting here in limbo until I just caved and bought a F-150. But I wish I should have really just hung on to the Y if I was smart.
Did you with that Y, did you end up selling it for more than what you paid, or was it about a wash? Or
yeah, no, nice. I think I made enough. We'll just say I had a Jeep for a little bit, and I made enough to pay for the Jeep for free.
Wow, nice.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I have a 18 F-150, but mine is a base model. So the only thing it's on it, I went from a 2002 Ford Ranger with base model, basically. So I had roll up windows and all that stuff. So when I actually got a big truck, I was like, the only thing I want is power windows and power locks. Other than that, I don't care.
Sure.
So that's what I got, and it actually has 4-wheel drive and has backup trailer assist, but that's the only added features.
Yeah,
And I love it. So,
do you have like any of the power on board with that? That's the only thing I think I'm missing right now. No, okay.
No, nothing, no power on board on that truck yet. I don't think that came out until the 21s, I think, with the power boost, I think.
Okay. Yeah, that sounds good.
Some of the upper trims I think had like, plugins inside where you could plug in, a 110 plug-in or something like that, or 120 plug-in.
Okay.
But for the exterior, like the power boost, I think is when they first started the onboard generator thing.
Like in the bed, right?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. What cars do you guys have? Or anyone in here in the chat? Oh. Well, the two vehicles that we have right now are the Volkswagen ID4 and a 2018 F150. And then Larry, you now have an F-150.
Yeah. So on an EV chat, I'm about to get banned instantly. Ready? I've got a F-150 and a Chevy Tahoe. The two gas suckers from hell. So, but not for long. We're looking to go back to the EV lifestyle here.
Crazy.
But,
right.
Yeah. I had in 2000, I bought a Ford Expedition, and that thing got maybe 15, 16 miles of the gallon. That was awful. Right. But it was fun to drive. It carried a lot of stuff. Back in the day, I loaded it with loads of skateboard decks, and it was an amazing vehicle for transporting stuff. And sold that. And when the day that I sold it, I was so happy. And I've never had that big of a gas guzzler ever since. And just, I think I told Jim just a year ago, we got the Tesla Model 3, and I've been loving it ever since. But I think I'm going to love the Fisker Ocean 1 even more when that comes here in the next 5 to 6 months.
Nice.
Okay.
You loving the 3? Any complaints on that?
Yeah.
A lot of people complain about it. I haven't had any of the build issues that a lot of people talk about. So we were pretty lucky. There was like a little tiny blemish in the paint. And unfortunately, I noticed it after the 100 miles of taking delivery, so Tesla wouldn't actually cover it, which was a bummer. That was probably my biggest complaint. Aside from that, everything's been really good. We've driven it to the Palm Springs desert a few times. It's about 120 miles away from where I live here in San Diego. And the thing that I always forget to turn off, it's kind of you have Sentry mode, as you know, right, where it records everything whenever people come near the vehicle. Out in the desert, like when we stay at a hotel, there's so many people that walk by the parking lot, that thing goes on and off all the time, and it drains the battery between that and the heat of the desert. If we didn't drive it, so I think I ended up using about 130 miles on the battery to go from San Diego to Palm Springs. It sat for 4 days without doing a thing. By the time we got in the car to go, we knew we were going to have to charge it. So we got in the car to go eat dinner and charge it. And it had dropped another like 150 miles just by sitting there. So it did that last time we were there too. So the last 2 times we went, it did the same thing. And this last time I thought, I'm going to turn off the Sentry mode, but I forgot to do it. So the battery got zapped again. But aside from that, I think it's a great car, and I've loved it. And if we could afford it, we would keep both the Tesla Model 3 and purchase the Fisker Ocean 1. But it's just it's too much. I'll probably do what you did, and at some point sell the Model 3 to fund the next purchase. But the question now with that EV tax credit and the government giving people $4,000 for a used EV, I'm not sure what that's going to do to supply and demand of new electrical vehicles, or what it's going to do just to the market in general. As price is going to come down on electric vehicles. I have a feeling they are, but my guess is as good as anybody's. So I think you're close to the peak when you sold your vehicle.
Yeah, it's definitely, the used thing, when you phrase it that way too, it's incentivized to finally get some of these used prices down a little bit too, right?
Right.
Yeah. The problem is though, is if you have people that want to sell their existing electric vehicle, that would make it a used electric vehicle. I would never buy another having already had an electric vehicle, you unfortunately can't say that because you got the Lariat, but I would never buy another ICE vehicle because I just love the speed, having to charge, getting to charge at home. It just becomes a lot more convenient owning an electrical vehicle, and to me, it's a better drive, a better experience overall. But if I was selling this electric vehicle to somebody who then gets to take advantage of that $4,000 EV tax credit for buying a used car, I'm likely to upgrade to a new car or a new electric vehicle. And there's still kind of a shortage on electrical vehicles. And then for the ones that qualify for the $7,500 tax credit, I don't know how many people that are upgrading or buying a new one are going to need that. But I have a feeling, it's a lot of people might just be hanging on to their used electric vehicle because there's not lots of inventory. Like you have to wait, I think, 4 months for a new Tesla Model 3. Like, that's a long time. And that's if it delivers in 4 months.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this is another one for Larry because I don't understand this. So the Chevy Silverado, or AKA Chevy Avalanche, apparently Larry's got a reservation on one of those too.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
So you have to explain yourself on that one because I don't get it.
What's the question? You just don't like it? The looks of it?
I don't like the Avalanche look on the back of it. If they had squared it off just like a regular truck, I've been okay. It did look better in person when I saw it in Chicago at the auto show. It did look a lot better. But I still just, I don't like it as much as I do the F-150. But the next one that I might put a reservation on is the Ram when they come out with it.
Yeah. So I've got two reasons. The first reason I bought it or reserved it is I had no faith that I'd actually get the Lightning I ordered. And I was like, you know what? I'm in the middle of the line for the Lightning. Let me at least be first in line for the Silverado in case there's a chance I get that sooner. But then I actually grew to sincerely like it. So I think the new interior they're doing, even with just their 2022, the way they redid the interior of the Silverado, I think they nailed it. I really do think it's pretty great. So the interior is fantastic, and that's where I'm going to be the most. Is the overall design of it perfect? I don't think so. But I actually love, this is embarrassing, but I love the Avalanche. I think the Avalanche is pretty cool looking. And I like it. What can I say? I'll proudly wear that badge, and I already know for a fact I will probably own the Lightning for maybe a year, maybe 2 years. And then when I get my Silverado, I'll own that for about 2 years. And then when they redo the Lightning, I'll own that for about 2 years. So that's my game plan. And plus, I think the YouTube channel has a lot to do with it because, I want hands-on experience with as many. I've become, EV truck seems to be the niche I'm growing towards. So I want to get into as many of them as I can. So that's a big part of it too. So, wait, you know what? I'll probably get a Ram 2 years after that. So we'll do that.
Yeah, that Avalanche looks very similar to the Fisker Alaska truck that the company or Henrik Fisker did a sneak peek of a long time ago. He deleted the tweet after he published a photo of it, but it's got that same back end look of it. I'd say it's if you haven't seen the Fisker Alaska, and they may never build it, it was just kind of like a concept, but I think it has quite a very similar look to the Avalanche. If you like the Avalanche.
All right. Yeah, I
don't know. I like how small it is. That's pretty cool.
Now, Jim, I don't know if your chat just broke, but my chat over here broke on the live stream. It says it's no longer working. Can you see the chat still? Hopefully you can.
Yeah, I can still see it.
Perfect.
There was that chat thing came through, and I had to delete it. So I had to get it off of there.
Well, that just broke my chat.
And hey, before we move on, though, one thing I should have obviously mentioned is, have you seen the stats on the Silverado too? It's pretty dang impressive if they can.
Yeah, it is. It is. I know it's 500 miles they're saying, and the fast charging is going to be 350.
Great, yeah,
something like that.
The range is kind of whatever. If you can hit me with of course, we'd need the charger infrastructure to be able to charge at that rate. But assuming they're there by the time I'm buying one, let's go. I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I'll be a silver auto boy.
I could see that, and what I also see happening is like, so they're saying the 500 mile range, and I'm sure that's on their big battery. I'm sure they're going to have a smaller battery for their low version, whatever they're calling it, their base version. So I'm guessing it's probably going to be in that 300 to 350 range. So, like, I think you had mentioned in one of your other videos about Ford just ditching their low battery and just doing all of them at that 300 mile one. And I could see that happening as soon as the Chevy comes out. They'll be like, yeah, we got to do something else. But then in 2025, I believe Ford is also working on a new truck platform, and then they'll probably have a bigger battery and everything. They were kind of limited with space, I'm sure, with using the F-150 chassis.
Right.
But so I could see that happening. But yeah, I mean, the numbers and everything look good.
And they got a whole nother year to figure it out and make them work.
Yeah.
So even if they're not there yet, they're like they bought enough time.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So I'm gonna touch real quick and get everybody's kind of thoughts if you've taken a look at it. Is the Chevy Blazer EV? I actually did put a reservation on it, just because we weren't with this tax credit, we weren't sure where things were going, and with the Fisker Ocean possibly not getting it at all, then I was like, well, we need to have a backup plan. So this is what our backup plan was, and it's going to be built on that Ultium platform. So it's that same Cadillac Lyric platform that they're using. And it's going to have up to 320 miles range, up to 557 horsepower, and 0 to 60 under 4 seconds. Of course, all of those stats, except for the 320 mile range, is on the SS model. Of course, it's got all the power, but 22-inch wheels, charging speed up to 190 kilowatts is what I saw. It seems like it'd probably be able to do more if it's on that Ultium platform, but it looks like the LT is going to be, they're going to have 4 trim levels, the LT, 2LT, and RS and SS. The LT is going to have a small battery. It's going to get 245 miles of range. And it's going to be front wheel drive, and it's going to start out at 45K. It's not too bad. That's about where our ID4 sits at. And then the top is going to be the SS, which is all-wheel drive. It'll have 290 miles on a bigger battery. It's going to start out at 65K, which is pretty high price point, I think. Depending on whether it's considered a crossover and SUV, it might be pricing itself out of a tax credit. Where you get the 320 mile range, and there was a video I was watching, I think it might have been TFL EV, where they actually talked to one of the engineers or something that was there, and he was telling about each one, and they said the way you get the 320 miles is the RS version, which I think it's the only one that you can have front wheel drive, rear wheel drive, or all wheel drive. And if you get rear wheel drive with that big battery, and that's where you get the 320 miles. So I would assume if you go all wheel drive, you're going to be looking at around that probably 290 to 300 miles, at the same as the SS. You're probably going to have pretty close to the same configuration there. But that's it. I do like the styling of it. I think it looked pretty good. But, I'm not a Chevy guy, but
yeah. I think
my parents had a Blazer back when I was growing up, and we always loved it. It was a nice vehicle. It was beautiful. It was silver. And a funny story, my dad ended up, once the tires went out on the thing, he ended up getting some the cheapest tires he could at Discount Tire, and the things it looked totally like a low rider, and it always was a low rider thereafter. It didn't look quite right, but it was our Blazer, and it was actually a really good car. Did a lot of trips to Palm Springs.
Yeah.
Nice vehicle.
Yeah, I still stand by the biggest mistake, and this isn't my take. This is just a take I agree with. But the biggest mistake Chevy made is not following what Ford did, where it was they brought back the Bronco and made it like a cooler version of the old Bronco, where the Blazer used to be so cool, like the one that you probably had, and they brought it back and just made it a bigger Equinox, which is like, we have an Equinox already, fellas. We don't really need this thing, and it's a shame because they really could have done something cool. And now that they're doing the EV version, which I like, don't get me wrong, I think it's pretty great, but
it looks nice.
They're using the Blazer name when it's not what you remember the Blazer or the Bronco or whatever. So I don't know, but they're already kind of married into it, I guess. And especially if you're cross shopping like the new Lyric with this, like I couldn't see a single reason to go to a Lyric unless you're just like a Cadillac loyalist, because this is basically have really close specs. The interior looks pretty dang nice. And I don't know, if you can save about 20 grand, it looks like.
Yeah. As I say, that's why I looked at it and I was just like, yeah, that's probably a good fallback if the Ocean falls through. So,
yeah, what I really want to do, and I might even do a video on this, is like a close deep dive into this versus the Mach-E, because obviously this is their Mach-E that they're, or Chevy's Mach-E. So I don't know. I haven't lined up the spec sheets or anything, but I'm sure someone.
Actually, Chevy's Mach-E is going to be probably the new Corvette. The electric Corvette. I saw a rendering of it, and it
better than a Mach-E.
It's the same thing, hatchback.
Oh, really?
It was just a rendering, so I don't know where it came from, but yeah.
Okay, well,
I was not impressed with it, but
Chevy don't.
Yeah, so when you were talking about the Bronco, then bringing back the Bronco and doing a better version of it or something like that, I don't know. I still, if you go back before they actually released it, and it was all these pictures of what it's going to look like and all these crazy rendering, and they had some so awesome looking like modernized square body. It was just awesome to see some of those. I think The Rock, in one of the movies that he did with the giant monsters, I can't remember what that one was called, but anyway, he drives one of the concepts.
Oh, really?
Bronco concept in it, and it looks nothing like what the Broncos look like now.
Okay.
So you have to go back and check that.
It's like something and it goes away.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what they did. Whether they bought it from them, bought the concept from them, or what. But yeah, that was pretty cool.
Sorry about my dog running around.
No, you're fine. A couple of people in the chat said your dog is cute. So
good. Okay, it's Teddy. Say hi, Teddy. Right, he'll be back.
Okay, so you kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. You talked about the Toyota Venza, and I did watch your video on that. So what did you like about it? What did you not like about it?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So I'm really excited about, because that was my first ever, and probably last ever, because the video is not doing great, but my first ever like press car. So I actually had to try it out, and it's really hard doing it that way, because they send you like the nicest trim vehicle like that they make of the Venza. So it's like, yeah, I love it. It's great. It's leather. It's got all this tech. It's got this crazy awesome moonroof. And I'm like, yeah, this thing's awesome. And then you have to kind of check yourself a little bit. Well, let me actually put myself in the seat of someone or if I was buying, I'm not going to buy the highest trim version of a Venza if I'm buying a Venza. But I will say the best part about it was the peak of high gas prices when I had it for a week, and it killed it for not being a full electric vehicle. I mean, on some trips, I think I recorded almost getting 50 miles per gallon on it. Which
Wow.
for like something the size of like a Model Y, I'd say it's pretty great. It's technically an SUV. Getting that kind of gas mileage is really great.
Yeah.
So, all said and done, if that's what you're looking for, something that size, and you're comparing it against some other ones, definitely at least give it a try, because it checked all the boxes for like that. It felt like a car to drive, so it had that kind of like aggressive handling or more nimbleness, but it had storage. So if you're using it as like a mid-size like trip for your family, it handled it. So
Awesome.
that's kind of my thoughts if I had to sum it up.
There's one thing that you pointed out in the video, and I actually just saw another guy point the same thing out. It is Dave B sells Chevy. I don't know if you've ever watched any of his.
I have, yeah.
He was doing a would you rather, and he had like an Acura MDX and a Toyota Venza plug-in hybrid, and he pointed out where the cell phone charger is.
Oh, I hated it.
That cubby hole way up in there. I'm like, why in the world would they put that so far back in there? It's just crazy.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think a couple other Toyota models have that same dash, that same setup. It's crazy.
Yeah. Well, that's good. Just so you know, some of the most of the videos that I've done reviews on cars and stuff don't do that well either. So just so you know, I think, and I talked to Sean a little bit about this whole algorithm, the way that YouTube does things, and since we're in this more of an electric car kind of niche area, whenever we do anything that is not like basically like car content, like a review or something, it's like we're here and it puts the video way over here. And so then it's like people don't know us, people don't know anything about it, and it just kind of doesn't do as well as if it was something that was kind of more in our little group and normal stuff that we do.
I get it. I mean, that's my fear every day is like, because I do e-bike review videos and automotive stuff. So it's like, what does YouTube think I am? Like, are they going to serve this video versus this video? And it's a dilemma I face basically every time I upload. But, you know, whatever. I'm having fun, so I'll figure it out eventually, right?
Yeah, sometimes I get a little down where it's like, this thing's got like 6 views in 3 hours. What is going on here?
Right.
You know,
like, and it's always the one that you put just all your work into. You just like really try your hardest. It's like YouTube's like, nah, I don't think anyone wants to watch this.
Well, I don't know if you happen to have caught it, in which we've kind of talked. This is kind of that whole algorithm thing. I did that one video about after I had done the one where I thought I had moved to the front of the line at my dealership because they just got EV certified. I did that another one like right after that where I actually had to move my reservation. And what happened? That thing blew up. 163,000 views. I'm like,
yeah,
what is going on? But it didn't translate to anything.
It was a great thumbnail.
Oh, do you think that's what it was?
I think that got people at least in the door. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, what is going on?
I don't know.
Here? I was like, I don't know. It was amazing though. I'm like checking it every 2 hours and it's going up by thousands. I'm like, whoa, what is going on?
It's a fun feeling, isn't it? Like, I've never even had a video do that well. Like, I mean, I think like 50,000 is the most I've ever got. But even that, I'm just like, oh yeah. So nerdy to talk about. It's just like, but it really is. It makes you feel. It gives
well, and I think I got down afterwards because I was so used to seeing those big numbers coming in. Then when I do other videos and I'm getting like my normal stuff again, it's like, what is going on? What is wrong?
Right.
But
definitely.
Okay, enough of that.
I remember since like you first reached out to me to now, it looks like you've like doubled. So you've been putting the work in, that's for sure. Right? Like, is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing it. It's going up pretty well. I think like around 1,600 or something like that, maybe when we first talked. Yeah, it's slowly been going up, and Sean over there has been kind of helping. We've been doing a collaboration with. I've been doing a collaboration with Sean at Fiskiratti, and with comparing models to the Fisker Ocean. So he's been doing articles on that and kind of got things moving. And we've been doing a live show every Wednesday night. So
Nice.
it's kind of helped move things along. So you guys kind of talked about it a little bit just a little while ago about your Model Y and Model 3. Anything else you guys wanted to add about that?
I've got a quick question for Sean, because I think my only reason like of why I had to have the Y was like just because I had a little more room. Do you ever feel like the 3 needs more space, or is it perfectly adequate for you?
At times it's needed more space.
Sure.
Both my wife and myself, though, I came from having a BMW 3 Series, like a 328i. And my wife ended up coming from a Jetta. I don't know what model it was. Maybe an R-Line, actually, the R-Line Jetta. The two vehicles have about the same size interior cabin and trunk space. Maybe even the Jetta had maybe a little bit more than the BMW, if I can remember it correctly. But the Model 3 more or less has the same. Like, the best way to describe the space would be every year we still do, we go to our local Home Depot and we grab a Christmas tree. The Christmas tree ends up still sticking out of the Model 3, just like it stuck out on the BMW 3 Series and the Jetta. So it's the further we shove it in, the less likely it is to stick out. And we always buy like the 6-foot Christmas tree. It's usually a little bigger than 6 feet. But it's the size is about the same. Having a child, and I heard you said you have a kid too. I don't know how old your child is. Our daughter's now 4. But there's a car seat in the back seat. Doing road trips and doing long trips, once the trunk fills up, which it does really quick, we end up having then to stuff stuff right next to the back, the back seat next to her car seat. So the car is extremely full, and that's one thing that I'm hoping the Fisker Ocean solves for us. It's now going to have, I think, like, and these numbers were, I did an article about it yesterday. I did like, camping in your Fisker Ocean, like what would that be? Imagine, camping, laying in the rear of your vehicle and looking up at the stars with your solar sky roof or your big sky roof or your, open sky roof. I kind of painted that picture and imagine what it would be like, not having owned the vehicle or, doing all that stuff. Right. But knowing the dimensions of the rear, the dimensions are much, much bigger than that of the Model 3. So we are going to get a lot more space. And the numbers that Fisker has published around their dimensions of their electric SUV were from like the beginning of 2020. And I think when they went to CES and announced, I think maybe their Charge Electrify America partnership, but the dimensions then, I think they actually might be shortchanging themselves by not publishing more updated ones, because the new pictures of the Fisker Ocean trunk space look a lot bigger than what they did in the original prototype. So it'll be interesting to take a tape measure and measure it. But like our Model 3 as an example, camping with the Fisker Ocean versus camping with the Model 3, we ended up thinking about that a year ago when we got the thing. We wanted to go to Palm Springs. I use Palm Springs as an example because that's like the main place we go. And all the hotels there, the weekend that we looked, were all sold out, all the nice places that we would normally stay. So we thought, hey, maybe we could buy a mattress, a Tesla, a mattress that fits in the back of the Model 3 that's specifically designed for the electric vehicle. Maybe we'll go camping. It's like $250 for the mattress. That's a lot less than one night at one of the hotels that we would normally stay at. So it'd be a win. And before I ended up putting the money, I went down in the garage and laid down the rear seats of the Tesla Model 3 and laid back there. And I was like, there's no way we're going to fit two more people, my wife and a toddler. We'd probably crush each other at night, flipping and flopping. But that's, yeah. So I'm hoping that with the Fisker Ocean being about 5.5 inches wider than the Tesla Model 3, and sure, it's not an apples to apples comparison. I should be comparing the Ocean to the Model Y. But I don't own a Model Y in the garage. I own a Tesla Model 3. So it's going to be 5.5 inches bigger, which might allow us a little bit more shoulder room if we were to try to take it camping. And maybe we will. Who knows? But that's kind of exciting. That's something fun to think about in the future.
Yeah, totally. And I know a lot of people take their Ys and do exactly what you just said. Like they make like the mattress, you fold it down and you stare out the big glass roof. So
That's really neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen photos and videos of people doing it in like all the forests and stuff in California, like Yosemite or Big Sur, and you wake up and you have like the huge, massive redwoods above you, and that's got to be really, really cool. Once again, though, having a child, we have a car seat in the back, so once you fold down the seat, you have to put the car seat either outside for the night or in the front seat. So it and then like all the stuff that was in the rear of the trunk, you got to put it somewhere, probably in the front seats while you're sleeping. So it's a logistical nightmare potentially of camping in the rear of the vehicle, but it might be worth it for a
car
weekend.
is just a young man's game, and I'm no longer a young man. I don't know. I'm gonna say pass on that one. As cool as the idea, maybe if I was like solo somewhere, but I don't know. It seems a lot to pack in there.
Yeah.
One more thing, just because. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
you're all right.
Just one more thing that you brought up that like really sparked something that I always love talking about is like, I can't believe we don't have more like actual like SUV style SUVs like on the horizon for the EV market right now. Like outside of the R1S, which actually looks like a traditional SUV, like
that thing's huge.
Right. And that's awesome. Like I think that's like, my wife would buy that in a second. Like that's exactly, it's like an electric Tahoe essentially, just a little smaller. But like, how come that's not like a priority that we're seeing? Like, I can't believe that even trucks came before SUVs did. Like, I don't know. What do you guys think?
I think I did see. I think Kia has a concept
like a Telluride. Yeah,
it was kind of like the Telluride. It looked a lot like it, but it was called something else.
9. Yeah.
Yes. I think that one that looks a little out there.
I like it. I think it's nice.
That was really the only other one that I have seen other than the R1S. So I don't know if they're thinking. I don't know. I think once the like Ford and now Ford was looking at doing the Explorer EV and the Lincoln Aviator. I think it is. I think those two are the same thing. They were looking at doing that, but then they were running out of. They decided to produce more Mustang Mach-E's in the area where they were going to start working on the Explorer EVs. And so then they ended up just nixing that for now anyway. But that's still not something like an Expedition or anything like that. But that's the newest thing that I had heard of anyway.
Yeah, it's just, you'd think that'd be like, by the way, this is coming soon, and like there's really not.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I hadn't.
So Bill actually mentioned, and it's a good point, and I just threw up a poll as well if anyone can see that. But like, what would you prefer? Like Bill's like the minivan. How come we haven't seen any EV minivans? Great point. I was like, well, we have the Canoe or however you pronounce it, the company that did their version of the minivan, if you call it that. But like, we haven't seen any of those yet. And minivans are super, super popular, especially with families. We personally never owned a minivan, but I could see us getting one if there was a really nice electrical vehicle option. But yeah, that one has not made it. That one hasn't been very popular. So the car companies must not think there's a big market for it for some odd reason.
Other than, have you guys seen the Buzz? That'll be here soon. But that's about all. Because other than that,
somebody mentioned the Canoe. Canoe has one,
right?
Which I mentioned the Canoe in there. It's actually nice. They did a deal. They do not only minivans, but they also do kind of like light truck type vans. And the company Canoe has actually done a partnership recently with Walmart, probably within the last 3 to 4 weeks, where they're going to be supplying Walmart a lot of delivery vans. And it's kind of similar to that. What I want to say, it was Rivian that did the deal with Walmart. With Amazon. So same type of deal, but Canoo's done that, and that should hopefully fund some of their consumer vehicles.
So the only thing I've got left that I was going to hit on was the Fisker Ocean and any updates. I mean, we talked about earlier about the way they're doing their work around the tag right now. But as for any other updates, Sean, do you have anything else?
I think the big news, and maybe Larry heard if he follows Fisker at all, that the company ended up selling out. They announced on Wednesday that they sold out of the Fisker Ocean 1 by taking a $5,000 non-refundable deposit from their reservation customers. So they asked, a bunch of reservation customers. They eventually secured 5,000 pre-orders with $5,000 non-refundable deposits by each of those 5,000 customers. So they closed the reservation book on Friday, this past Friday, and they didn't say they were sold out, but they said it was closed. And it made people wonder, like, did they actually sell out? Are they going to announce it on earnings on Wednesday? What are they doing? That's bad if they closed it and they didn't sell out. Typically maybe some companies might hold back a couple 50 orders just so they have stuff for press or influencers or whoever didn't get to pre-order. But nope, they announced at the market close on Wednesday afternoon that they did a full sellout of their 5,000 launch vehicles. And that was kind of the big news, I would say, with Fisker. And then, we got the EV tax credit, the whole, Inflation Reduction Act that everyone's talking about. And I just I read some news earlier that I guess it passed the Senate. So now it's going to go to the House, and I don't know when it's going to the House, but it's going to go maybe this week or next week. I'm not sure. And then if it passes, which, everybody who if you guys, whoever's listening, we have, I don't know how many people we have watching. I can't see that tonight, but I would say, write your congressperson, tell them that, there's a better path forward and make changes to the bill and kick it back to the Senate to revote, because there could be a more inclusive bill that helps, existing manufacturers like GM and Tesla and Ford, companies like GM specifically, who's reached that 200,000 EV cap. So there's better ways of doing that. There's better ways of helping budding startups like Canoo or Fisker or Lucid and those type of companies too. So it just seems like it was kind of a, hey, rush it, get it out. Everyone agreed. We got something's better than nothing. We're willing to take the hit in the near term for maybe a long-term benefit. But yeah, I still think, I said this morning in the Fiskiratti forum, it's one step, forward, two steps back. And someone corrected me and said, there's no steps forward. It's just two steps back. Yeah. So that's actually how it feels. But that's our government for you.
Yeah.
That's how it works.
I mean, I think with the battery restrictions is where the biggest problem lies, because it's really not giving, and if they're wanting to implement this in 2023, then they're not giving manufacturers any time to try to move things around and do something different. So if they want to keep that in there, there's certain things they can do this bill, but add in like time frames. Like if you need to do this, then the manufacturers have 5 years to get their crap together and start building these the way that they want them built. So I just think it's really a lot to try to push these manufacturers to
because they're going to try to start obviously shifting that, but the consumers are hurting in the meantime because we're just
less choice. You get less choice.
Walls. Yeah. And the people who are ready to go, like, I don't know if we ever found that list of the vehicles that will be eligible. Like, they're gonna take a huge step ahead for the next little 3 or 5 years. Yeah, like it's gonna start crushing some of the competition.
Yeah,
which I definitely see as like a, again, just to play the other side of this at the front, at least it does get sourcing. I don't know if I love sourcing in the U.S. actually. Now that I think of it, I don't mind that we source some of it out of the country, but I don't know.
There's actually a company called Mountain Pass or MP Materials. Their stock symbol is MP, and they actually do they mine minerals specifically for EV batteries, and they're based here in the United States. So that company, I would imagine, on this news probably tomorrow when the stock market opens, I would imagine MP is going to probably do better than most stocks that are tied to mining specifically battery materials. So that'd be an interesting one to watch tomorrow. But we got some results from our poll. We had 12 votes. I don't know how many people are watching, but 12 is better than no votes. And we have 25% of the people want more EV sedans. Nobody wants EV trucks, 0% there. EV minivans, 17%, and EV SUVs, 58%. So that seems to be still the most popular one. So that's kind of interesting.
I'm guessing the only reason we don't want EV trucks is because there's already like 60 of them in the plans, right? Or
that could be.
That's
like
just
the Lordstown factory, Lordstown trucks, right? Like that truck is going to be coming out too. You don't hear too much about that, but I follow it a little because that's the factory that Foxconn acquired to develop and build out the Fisker Pear. But Foxconn's going to actually be building out not just the Fisker Pear from that factory, but also the Lordstown truck as well.
Last time I heard they flopped, but maybe I'm wrong.
Oh no, they're still around. They're still doing it. But they're going to take the asset light approach now. They basically sold their manufacturing facility to Foxconn, and they're going to become a customer to Foxconn, who's then going to be building their vehicles just like they're going to be building Fisker's vehicles. So this asset light model is kind of like the newer way of doing things. You require less capital. You don't have to invest in infrastructure. You leave that to the Foxconns of the world or the Magnas. To do the producing or the manufacturing.
Yeah. Sorry. The one thing you talked about.
Oh, sorry, Jim. I was just gonna say that's the only thing about for Fisker that's new. Really, is the sold out of the Ocean One and this EV tax credit. That's really the news, and the EV tax credit applies to not just Fisker but everybody that has an interest in electrical vehicles. Just trying to tie that with a bow there for you.
Well, you mentioned Lucid, and I think this week Lucid basically said that they're going to be cutting their production. Their expected plan was like 14,000, I think, Lucids this year, but they reduced that back to 6,000.
I heard that too.
Yeah. So, and I think most of it is surrounding the Air, which I think is the cheapest one, is where they're having an issue. But that their stock took a huge hit also whenever they did that.
I actually saw, the only reason I know of that is I was on Twitter and I saw a tweet from Elon Musk, and he replied to the CEO who announced the production cut from 14,000 to 6,000 over at Lucid, and he ended up saying, I've had more kids than that this past year, which was kind of a mean thing to say, but he likes stirring up controversy and just doing his thing, which is it's kind of entertaining and amusing, but yeah, it probably makes a lot of people upset.
Yeah. Okay. Anything else you guys want to talk about? I've kind of done with what I had in mind, and if there's anything you guys you think of that specifically that you want to talk about.
Yeah, I actually, during the beginning of this call, I ended up actually going to the Fisker site, and I ended up pre-ordering my second Fisker Ocean for $100. So I had reserved a second one, and I converted that second Ocean reservation to a pre-order, a non-binding, a non-refundable pre-order. So for $100, I now have an option potentially to end up getting a second $7,500 tax credit. I don't know how that works actually, but we'll cross that bridge at tax time next year.
You'll have to put a wife's name.
Yeah, right. We'll have to figure that out. But I did it. The process actually, a lot of people on the Fiskiratti site in the comments, they said that it was really hard. They were having issues. I had just done it right before our call. I got the emails while we were on I say call, but on the live stream here, and it went through. It popped me over to a third-party site. It actually popped me over to Salesforce.com. So probably Fisker uses. I know they use Salesforce for all their emails and things like that. So it sent me over to Salesforce. I completed the form. I had to enter in our address. It was basically the same. It looked like the same contract, more or less, that we ended up getting for the Fisker Ocean 1, but I had to choose my selection. I ended up choosing a sport as opposed to an extreme or an ultra. I figured if I am lucky enough to get a second one, I'm not going to go spend a whole lot more money, but we'll maybe get a sport, and it'll be a smaller range, and we can putz around here with it and kind of see what that's like. So I know it works. It was still active. Fisker said that they were going to keep their non-refundable pre-orders open for all reservation holders in the U.S. that want to convert their existing reservation to a non-refundable pre-order for the other trims. So they're going to keep that open until the president signs the legislation, or if and when the president signs their legislation. So it'll just be interesting to see this week, start of the week, if other companies come forth and do the same thing.
Nice. Now, I know this is a rookie question, but I just haven't been following the Ocean as much. How soon until, like, you just reserved yours? I know they're probably starting with the higher trim, but how soon till that's in your driveway?
So it's still a little wishy-washy, but the company is going to start production of the 5,000 limited edition launch vehicles on November 17th of this year. They may surprise us and start earlier in November. So I would imagine they will. But your guess is as good as mine. They then have to ship them. They may end up making deliveries to people in Austria, where the vehicles are going to be produced, or maybe Germany or other European countries, since they're the vehicles are being made in Europe. But the interesting thing that they said on the earnings call on Wednesday, that we shouldn't expect them to account for a lot of revenue in 2022, which would mean they're going to push a lot of the deliveries to 2023. So we're going to probably take delivery. I would imagine it's going to come on a ship, most likely. And I was talking to a friend at dinner on Friday who's really knowledgeable in cars, and he said, yeah, they're very unlikely for the vehicles that are coming here to be delivered in California, which is probably the number one state that is going to be taking ownership of Fisker Oceans. They'll have them come through on ship through the Panama Canal to Long Beach, and they'll then get routed accordingly here on the West Coast. But yeah, so I'm guessing, to answer your question, Larry, I would say probably within the first 3 months of 2023, we'll probably take ownership of it. The company is, I would imagine they deliver them to people in Europe first, but they're being very selective on the countries that can purchase them. And they were very strategic on how many, like, we don't know how many were available in California or, Florida or New York, or how many were available for pre-ordering in Austria or Germany or the United Kingdom. So it might be a very big marketing play to try to drum up a lot of buzz and hype if they just come here to the California first, and then everybody sees them on the road, and then they start making them, send them out, east, and who knows how the heck they're going to roll them out. But we started a spreadsheet on the Fiskiratti forums, and I knew it would hit a wall, but we had like 40 or 50 people who said, hey, I reserved mine. This is the state that I'm in, or the country that I'm in. This is the trim that I ordered. And it'd be interesting just to end up seeing like where, the majority of the reservations are. But I knew after a few people asked for me to create a spreadsheet and post it on there, and I did. But we got like 40 or 50 people to fill it out, and I knew we're never going to get anywhere near 5,000. But on the forum, there's over 5% of the people now that are members on the forum that actually are Fisker Ocean 1, potential future Fisker Ocean 1 owners. So of all the 5,000 reservations, I think there's like 260 or so people that said, hey, I've pre-ordered the Fisker Ocean 1. So that's kind of exciting. Yeah. So yeah, it'll be fun to kind of see how this happens, and that's the one that I follow the most.
Yeah, I'm excited about this one. I mean, it's gorgeous looking vehicle. I think the only reason I didn't reserve one myself is honestly, I had doubts about it being not, the shipping part you just said. That sounds like in the world we live in, easier said than done sort of thing. So it's cool that you even know the plan that's in place. That's pretty awesome to me. That there's even a plan. That's a good step, a good sign at least.
Yeah. I don't see it being too much of an issue because like Volkswagen, the ID4, it's built in Germany and shipped over here. All of the ones in the US right now are all been shipped over here. So yeah, it does take a little bit longer to get it. Sometimes, and recently they've been getting shipped in, they get to the port and then they're putting the updates and stuff at the port. And then so that it's sitting at the port for another month or two sometimes before they're actually getting out delivered to the dealerships or to customers.
Mm-hmm.
The problem that I have with that, and most EV people do, is that what is the state of charge on that battery when it's just sitting there for 2 months? Or it's sitting there for a
They're not
month.
going to be using well, they might have to plug it in actually.
Yeah. And they brought up the same thing about the F-150 Lightning because they actually said that they've got Tom Malogny from State of Charge. He said on his that he knows people that have their trucks been produced and they're sitting in a parking lot and they've been sitting there for months because they can't get transporters to actually deliver the trucks out. So it's taking so long, and that was his question was if they're sitting there that long, what is the state of charge on them? Are they just parking them out there? They're probably pretty close to full and they park them out there, but how long does it sit like that? Or if they're on a low charge, it's not good for them to be sitting too low either. So
have you guys ever taken an electric vehicle or know anyone who's taken one down to zero?
Oh, I have
videos.
You have?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, I've got a video on it, but I think I talked about this with JKEV last week that sometimes you forget you're a YouTuber when things are going on and things get a little chaotic and you get a little stressed and you forget that you're a YouTuber. So I didn't actually get video of this. I made a video talking about it. It didn't go over real well, but it was early on. But it has scheduled charging, and I had set up the scheduled charging for the previous day that we were leaving on a trip. Well, so we left. When we came back, I didn't shut the scheduled charging off, and it's set by a day, not a date. So when I had set it for like Tuesday, when we brought it home and plugged it in, it was going to wait till next Tuesday to start charging.
Oh, no.
So it just happened to be that day my wife got up. We came back. She had 60 miles left on it, and it didn't charge it overnight. And she had appointments in the morning, and it was cold. It was like 24 degrees outside, no heat pump. So as soon as she plugged in and started driving down the road, it dropped another 15 miles. And so she drove all the way over, took care of her stuff, and she sent me a message and said she was down to like 10%, 10 or 12% left on the battery. And I said, just bring it over to me at work and take my truck and go do whatever else you need to do, and I'll drive the car home. Well, she drove over there 24 degrees, and she had a headwind that she was driving into. By the time she gets there, it says there's 3% battery left and 6 miles to go, and it's 11 miles to our house. So that was a little, I was like, I came out and I just told them at work, I said, I got to go. I'll be back, but we got to go now because if I let this car get cold and then try it, we're not going anywhere. We're not going to make it. So we drove back and I drove like 55 on the highway. And then every time it would go down 1%, I would go down like 5 mile an hour just so it would get a little regen braking, put a little power back in there.
Were you just like
got up to town and I let off the accelerator and just let it regen all the way up to the stop sign as much as I could. Then went on through town, real slow, going through town. And as we were getting out of town, I sped up, but then I got off on our road and I regen the whole time. And then we've got this like road that drops down and then comes back up over a bridge. Well, I regen all the way down that thing. When I come up the other side, though, I get up to the top of that hill, and the whole time going through town, I had a yellow turtle on my screen. Well, by the time I got to the top of that hill, it was a red turtle, and I was going 30 miles an hour, and I couldn't go any faster. I mean, I had already been at 0% for a long time. It had been at least 6 miles that I had driven with a orange turtle before it turned to red. So I was about a half mile away from the house, and we pulled in. I just 30 mile an hour, just barely pulled into the drive and got out and plugged the thing in. I was just like, oh my gosh. And about 30 seconds later, I was like, I should have recorded the whole thing.
That's crazy.
YouTuber brain.
So yeah, it was pretty interesting. I was a little more comfortable with it because I had watched a video of a guy driving an ID4, and it was in a warmer temperature, but he drove for about 12 miles after he hit 0. Wow. And so I was like, okay, so I know we've got some range under 0. I just don't know for sure what it is in the cold weather.
That's awesome.
But we got there.
That's good.
Yeah. I'm not as scared of it anymore.
There you go.
And the thing is, the more that you drive them, the more you learn how to preserve the energy when you need to. I think I had told this story before. Also, we were driving around in Chicago one weekend, and when you're just driving around a little local area and you have all that regen braking and all that stuff in town and all that, when we plugged in and charged up, it said 278 miles. And we only get 250 range. So, so then when I left there, I was driving home. I had a 20 mile an hour headwind. Halfway, about 3/4 of the way home, it told me I was at basically negative 15 miles. I was not going to make it. I was going to fall 15 miles short. So I just slowed down to 65, got behind a semi truck, and just sat behind it. And the longer I went, the more it came back up. So making it holding the drive with 11 miles left, but
nice.
All right. Actually, I think we probably are going to end things now. I appreciate you guys coming on. Thank you, Larry, for
thanks for having us.
I hope you enjoy your new house. And
yeah, I'm in my.
Goes well.
Oh, you can't see.
You got your lighting set up, I see. Look at that dog. Oh yeah.
Lots of work to be done here.
It looks like it. That's pretty cool, though. Is that a walkout basement?
We do have a walkout, yeah. So we got to finish this and get it looking fancy soon.
Cool. That's awesome. All right. Thanks, Sean, for joining us also, and I'll probably see you again on Wednesday. But
yeah, it was
sounds
awesome.
Good. Thanks for having us,
Jim. To meet you finally. I guess
likewise.
In person, right? This counts.
Yeah, kind of in person, I guess.
Yeah,
close enough. We'll have to do something. Whichever one of us gets a lightning first.
Deal. I'm in. Awesome. Hey,
all right. Well, everybody, thanks for joining us, and I will see you next week and see if I've got another guest host. If not, it'll just be me.
All right. Take care, everybody.